Yes, nice.
I'm a little confused about this dharma practice that you mentioned. Is meditation the only way to practice it?
No.
What are the other ways then?
Good question. I was gonna wait till you do that. Okay. So now let's just be clear what dharma is, right? Dharma is the techniques, yeah, to please, you wanna? Okay, the very basic answer, yeah. Techniques to transform the mind, whereby our negative and afflictive emotions decrease in strength and our positive emotions increase. That's dharma. Okay? So, for something to be dharma, it doesn't have to be Buddha dharma, right? And so, many people, you don't have to, become Buddhist or take any other kind of beliefs to practice dharma. Okay? So, our kind of formal dharma practice when we sit and meditate, that's one thing, right? But the real one is as we go into, real life, whatever that is, as we go in, and interact with people, and how well we're able to keep our mind in a good state, and take care that when we're in these kind of provocative situations, that our negative emotions, if they do arise, we keep them in check enough that they don't propel us into committing actions that harm ourselves or others. Okay? Hi. Have you been here before?
No.
First time?
Yes.
Welcome. Okay? Is that it? For now. Okay. Great questions, so thank you. All right, so we have about 2 more hours today. Then we have about 90 minutes tomorrow. Okay? So what I wanted to talk about, still on my list of topics that I want to talk about, I want to talk more about compassion. And then I want to talk about how our experiences come. Everything comes from how our mind labels a situation. I talked about this a little bit. And then I want to talk about transforming the way we look at our problems, so we don't no longer see them as being 100% bad. And then I want to talk more about this thought of this practice of tonglen, or giving and taking. It's a type of meditation. And then I also want to talk about the practice of medicine Buddha. Oh, and I also want to go over this daily meditation, which maybe some of you have. But I think this is definitely going to be tomorrow. Okay? Yeah? How does that sound?
Good.
Good? Alright. So let's start. Compassion. So, here, compassion has a quite technical definition, that it is the wish that others be free from suffering. Okay? The wish that others be free from suffering. So, the other reason why we need to learn about the various kinds of suffering that we experience is that the more detailed view we have about suffering and the types of suffering that ourselves and others experience, then our compassion or the wish that they're free from it will also be more, extensive, right? And so a lot of people, if we don't have a full picture of the suffering that we and others experience, there can be this thought like, we only develop compassion for the very gross cases of suffering, like of beggars and people who are very sick, but we don't develop compassion for Brad Pitt and Shah Rukh Khan, yeah? Or we develop compassion only for like the victims of a particular atrocity that's happened, but we don't develop compassion for the aggressors, right? So, we talked about suffering a lot, and I'm going to just talk about it a little bit more, and then we're going to talk about compassion, and then do a meditation on compassion, okay? That's the next little chunk what we're going to do, okay? So although I said earlier that here there's a division into 8 types of suffering, yeah? 6 types of suffering, 3 types of suffering, yeah? The 3 types of suffering basically encapsulates all of it, all of the different kinds of suffering, meaning unsatisfactory or dissatisfactory situations that we find ourselves in, okay? So the so-called suffering of suffering, or dungal is what we normally think about when we think about suffering, yeah? Headaches, migraines, poverty, depression, the very kind of unpleasant sensations and situations that we encounter, okay? So, importantly, His Holiness always emphasizes that getting the mind of renunciation from this kind of suffering is even something that animals can have, right? So it's actually not that special. I mean, of course, it's necessary but not sufficient. Okay. Next is what we call the suffering of change. Gyue Dungal. Now, what this means is even our pleasant experiences that we have and enjoy, they themselves are unsatisfactory in nature. Okay? So the normal explanation is when we have a pleasant experience, we're labeling something that's actually in the nature of suffering, yeah? We're labeling it pleasant because a greater suffering has been reduced. Okay, so let me put it in another context, right? Let's say we're hungry, okay? We're very hungry. Then we go out and, you guys know momos? Momos? Yeah, nice. Momos? Okay. Or samosa, whatever you guys want. Okay, momos. Let's use momos. Then we eat one momo, yeah? And we think, oh, nice. And we think that's pleasure, okay? So what we have done is our suffering of hunger has dropped, right? But what has happened? Our suffering of eating momos has started, okay? But, before, suffering of eating momos was like a 0, because we weren't eating any momos. And the suffering of hunger was high. Now, this kind of big drop in the suffering of hunger, and there's only a little bit of a rise in the suffering of eating momos, we label happiness. Okay? That's what all of our samsaric pleasures are like. But what happens? We eat 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 15, so forth. Then the suffering of eating momos increases and increases till it becomes very manifest. Okay? Right? You with me? Tia? Huh?
I can't understand the suffering of eating momos in the first place. I thought it was the joy of eating momos.
Yeah.
When we eat too much, then it becomes suffering.
Yeah.
How is it
Yeah.
suffering from this moment that we start eating?
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's become a need now. It wasn't a need earlier. The desire. It's
Yeah.
become a desire because it's palatable to us.
Yeah.
So that's becoming our suffering. Because now we attach to that pleasure of eating it.
Okay, so I'm not even talking about that. And actually,
Hunger,
although that is there, but that's another
Yeah.
thing. So here's the thing. Even that first momo is suffering. Yeah.
It doesn't
Huh?
appear to be.
Huh?
It doesn't appear to be.
That's what I'm saying, and that's what Buddha's saying, right? It doesn't appear to be suffering, because that whole experience, there's a big drop in the suffering of hunger, right? So we label what is actually suffering in nature, we label it happiness, right? So actually, there is a feeling of pleasure, okay? So that's what I'm saying. The suffering of change is not suffering from the standpoint of unpleasant sensation, but it's dukkha in the sense of being unsatisfactory. Okay?
But there is a drop of hunger
Yeah,
to which we are labeling that it's a pleasure.
yeah,
Okay.
Hmm.
And momo,
yeah.
one eating of momo,
Yeah.
how it is the beginning of the suffering?
Okay. So here's the thing. You know a little bit of Tibetan, right?
Hmm?
Tibetan language? Porque distinguir.
A
Okay.
little bit, yes.
Yeah. So there's dungal,
Dungal,
yeah.
yeah.
Sorwa dungal,
Hmm.
right? Zache gidewa. Zache gidewa is contaminated pleasure.
Yeah.
Okay? So zache gidewa, contaminated pleasure is gyurwe dungal.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So when we say the first
Suffering of
momo
change, yeah.
is suffering of change, it's actually contaminated pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There is a pleasant sensation that comes with a momo. I'm not denying that. Okay? But I'm saying more it's nature. That's why these translations are a little bit confusing, right? Don't think the first momo is suffering like, getting punched in the face, right? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking, it's the start of another kind of unsatisfactory experience.
It starts as pleasant, but then always ends as unpleasant. Or the pleasantness vanishes. So
Yeah.
Let me say, Venerable, okay, I'm
Yeah.
very hungry.
Yeah, nice.
And this sensation of hunger is very unpleasant.
Yes,
This is putting me at very unease.
yes, yes,
So the
yes.
best thing is that to ease that uneasy sensation, when I eat the momo,
Yes.
I take the first one.
Mm.
So now I do agree that when I eat my first momo,
Yeah.
the level of the hunger comes down.
Yes.
So I feel bit satisfied.
Mm.
So that can be a defiled pleasure.
Yes.
Okay, that is okay.
Mm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to that extent, it is okay. So let's move to the first. What is the next step from here? So how this first eating of the momo, which has brought down
Yeah.
the uneasy sensation of hunger,
Right. Mm-hmm.
becomes defiled suffering. I
Okay.
mean, not defile suffering, it becomes
Defile happiness.
pleasure. Yeah.
Defile. Okay. So now this pleasure that we experience
Yeah.
is defiled because it is the ripening effect of contaminated karma. Okay. So in all living beings that are not yet Aryas,
Mm-hmm.
meaning who don't have direct realization of emptiness.
Yeah.
Sorry for the newcomers. Getting a bit technical. This is one of the great scholars of this center, which I very much appreciate. So, okay. But anyway, all of us, right, who are still ordinary beings, right, we collect positive karma. We do good things. But even this is done with a tinge of grasping to an inherently existent self.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay? So that karma, okay, let's say we give food to someone else, okay? We offer charity, but there's still some sense of I, an intrinsically existent I, is giving an intrinsically existent gift to an intrinsically existent recipient, okay? So that karma is then contaminated, okay? Now, that when it ripens, it will ripen as a feeling of pleasure, okay? But since it's contaminated, that feeling will end,
Okay.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
That fact that those pleasant feelings of suffering end means can be better, means
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
dissatisfactory,
Mm-hmm.
means like gyurui dungao, the suffering of change.
Yeah.
You with me?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, what's confusing is actually the suffering of change, yeah, is a pleasant sensation. Yet we call it suffering, which is why I want that dungao to be unsatisfactory. In other words, as long as we're in samsara, the pleasant experiences we have are ultimately unsatisfactory because they will end.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah. Mm.
Now, this, then the translators have then said suffering of change, which is not technically, okay, it's not suffering in the sense of a suffering sensation,
Mm-hmm.
but it's dukkha in the sense of being unsatisfactory. More or less confusion.
Yeah, because like if I have to put it in Hindi,
Yeah, nice.
there's a word called, as you're saying, dukkha, and there's another word called, which is called the dard.
Darda.
Dard and dukkha.
Yeah.
Darda is a pain,
Yeah, nice.
and the dukkha is something very. It's a very, very. I would. How do I put it? Huh? Not even amorphous. I would say it's a. It's a broader.
Yeah,
It's a.
exactly.
And I don't know, like when you are saying dungel,
Yeah,
if we really separate duk and ngel,
yeah.
what would be that?
Mm.
Like I was talking to a person who knows Sanskrit very well.
Mm.
The dukkha.
Yeah.
He said the du, it means constricted.
Constricted.
Yeah, and kha is from the Sanskrit word called the kham, which means the space. So the space which is very constricted. It's like that my consciousness has really got limited to this. And sukham,
Yeah.
su is the expanded. The kham is the space which is expanded. So this is how he has really put it, which I really find makes a lot of sense, in the sense that the consciousness limited or the constricted
Right.
to the self, and the construct and the consciousness which is expanded, the
Okay.
sukham, which
Okay.
is expanded.
Right.
So I don't know, like if you have to understand this word etymologically in
Yeah.
Tibetan, do mel,
Yeah.
how will that sound? Will it sounds like the
Yeah.
space which is constricted and space which is
So I do know, and maybe our local Tibetans, but that du Actually, it's the same spelling as beautiful.
Dukkha.
Yeah, the mare.
Acha.
Dungyal.
Okay, Dunghal.
The du is the same as beautiful, isn't it? But ngel, I'm not sure. I'll look into that.
Duk is beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sa da 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 shapshi du ga duk. That
Duk.
can also mean beautiful, isn't it? Mare,
Is it
sa da 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 shapshi du ga duk. Okay.
Misery?
Hmm.
I think duk means misery.
Busy.
Duk is misery.
Misery.
Lazy.
Misery.
No, in Tibetan.
Misery.
Dunghal.
Dungal.
Dunghal.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's analyze.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what is the Hindi word meaning pain? Let me get that.
Dard
Dard.
or duk.
Yeah.
Dard is very limited, you know.
Yeah, dard. Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
feeling the pain, like the pain in the suffering.
Yeah.
And duk is, it seems more comprehensive.
Yeah.
Encompassing more than the duk.
Yeah.
More than dard.
Yes.
Dard is part of
Yes.
dukkha.
Nice.
Yeah.
We need to do something like this in the English
Yeah.
because we just have
Dukha would be
suffering.
It could be sickness. Duk.
Duk. Yeah, pain. Dard or duk. दर्द जो है वो छोटा सा है हाँ
Yeah. So. Yeah. There's.
anyway sorry for
No. I appreciate, but you guys, you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah. The language is a bit limited here. I'm sorry. Right. But anyway, there's these two things, right? There is this kind of suffering, you know?
yeah
Yeah.
that is called dard
Yeah. And then there's just like unsatisfactory.
yeah
And here in this case, when we talk about like samsara being in the nature of suffering, we mean can be better, basically. Right? There's something that can be better,
yeah
unsatisfactory.
because
You know?
suffering is not capturing that dukkha
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.